Hello guys, it's Peter from Pssound, and this short video is going to be about the Pssound scoring. Some of you might have heard me talking about our scoring way. I always keep it very simple. People always ask me, Pete, what score do you give for my car? But I've realized that I never had a video sharing this on YouTube, never, right? Adrian is behind the camera. We talked about it many times on Patreon, on our Patreon channel, which you can check out in the description. I will have a link to it. But now we are going to go through and using Nick's beautiful focus that you could also see on the channel. Then we can also give a score to this car. So I always say that you have to start with a factory system. A factory system that has factory locations. It's not amazing, but you can turn it on, you can listen to radio, you can listen to some background music, but it's not amazing. So that would be 2. That's where we start. That's a 2 out of 10. What is 1, right? I have to leave room for that too, because there are systems which are worse than a factory system. And you wouldn't believe how many aftermarket systems I come across with that I have to retune, and they sound worse than a factory one. That would be a system where it's just so bad to listen to, even if everything works. It's just so out of balance and it's just horrid. Harsh, bass is all over the place, everything is rattling. Or you may question yourself, do these speakers work? When some speakers are missing, they don't work, or they are crackling, distorting. That would be 1 out of 10. And it's crazy how many cars I come across with that get a 1 out of 10, sadly. That's when it's easy to upgrade them, for sure. So we move on from 2, which was a factory system. 3 would get a score from me that has an aftermarket system, but only thing it does better than a factory system is that it can be turned up loud and you can have a bit more fun with it. It goes louder, but it's still not sounding great. Speakers are still all over the place and there's no spectral balance. Sub is living its own life. Everything is buzzing, rattling, but you have more power. That would be a 3. 4 would be when there are signs of good spectral balance, where you have signs of something enjoyable, when, okay, you still don't have staging, you still don't have integration, but at least, you have somewhat equal amount of high frequency range, mid-range, mid-bass, and sub-range, and then, okay, you can turn it up. Those people who go to competitions, they will be still very unhappy with something like that. 5 would be when you also start to see some signs of speaker integration, when the sub is not living its life completely independently at the back, when it starts to feel like the sub is playing with the front end. You may have the first signs of some sort of speaker integration and a bit of staging. That would be a 5. 6 is where, okay, now speakers really start to come together and you have a decent staging, you have a center image. It's still not perfect, you can still have problems like stages pulling down to the doors, you still have buzzes and rattles from the doors, so they are not treated properly yet. Sub can also have its own issues that in certain frequencies it integrates, but on some other frequencies you can tell that there's a sub at the back, you still have rattles from the trunk. But, it's coming together nicely. So 7 is when, okay, now we can have fun. And that's where this focus would fall in my book, when you have great spectral balance, you have detail, you have dynamics, you have headroom, you can turn it up and you can have great fun with it. Staging is pretty good. Yes, it's not the competition winning most accurate staging, but left and right is balanced. Image is great, you have great separation on the stage, but of course you still have a level of installation where, pillars can be done by anybody. Mid-bass is still in the door, so it's not rattle-free. It's not the most accurate mid-bass. Sub integrates well, but you could still tweak it. That's a 7 in my book. That's where every system, every car should be when they have an aftermarket system. So then we can carry on. Then I told to Nick that if he sorts out most of the buzzes, then we can give it 7.5. 8 would be when a system doesn't have those classic problems like now what we covered when a car gets 7, when you don't have buzzes coming from the door. It may still be a door application with the mid-bass, so you still have flexes and you still have that tightness, that controlled kick bass when you have either sealed enclosures for the mid-bass or you have mid bass in the kicks, where nothing can rattle, whether it's a box in the kicks or it's IB. Then when you have a system that I can easily give an 8/4, you may even have a front sub, so you get better upfront bass and an easier life to integrate a rear sub. You have better extension with the sub from the back, and you can finally enjoy the system, and you have effortless presentation. But you can still ask for more. You may ask for more output capability and dynamic range. You may still ask for better extension with the sub, or you may still ask for better micro details and resolution in the system at the high frequency range. So there's still room for improvement. And then of course it can go up to 8.5, 9. 9 would be when you have all of it. When you have on the top end, you have the detail, the air, you have an amazing faultless staging, you have the extension with the sub, the car doesn't fall apart, the sub is integrating, and it's just super effortless. People don't want to get out of the car. That's a 9. When it can also deliver emotions, when people have their hair standing and people start crying, their tears come out, because the system can deliver emotions so easily. That's a 9. That's what I think everybody wants. But if we go back 8 or 7, you can have a lot of fun with those systems too. You don't need to chase perfection, because the other day I saw it, somebody said online that sometimes good enough is good enough. Actually, it was Nereus. I managed to catch one of his posts, and he said, good enough is sometimes good enough. And it's true. Not everybody has to chase perfection. But it's important that people get a reference. People understand what a 7 is. People understand when it's an 8 out of 10. They have to go out instead of just sitting behind the screen, pressing buttons and then looking at all the posts and looking at videos, pictures, everything we also share. You don't get the picture, you don't get the idea when a system is great until you go out, you go to meetings, you go to competitions, and then you can hear when a system is a 7 or an 8. Or some people turn up with their self-built system which hasn't been tuned yet. They have a lot of buzzes, rattles, and they have a system that only performs at the 4.5. And in their book, because they have a different reference level, they're still happy with it. The problem starts when your reference level changes, and then you want more and more and more. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes good enough is good enough, and you have to pull a line, because you can't wish for a 9 out of 10. It's not easy work. Usually the cars that get a 9 out of 10, you're looking at 400-500 hours of work easily in the installation, and then an amazing tuning, because without a proper tune, things won't come together. And then of course now some of you could ask, okay, what's a 10, right? We have to leave room. I think we have to leave room for improvement. And in an ideal world, a system that's like everything you can ever ask for is when you question if it's real or if it's a recording. When you have such delivery in a car where you just forget where you are, and there's no limitations, when everything is bang on perfect, that would get close to 10. Have we ever had a car that would be there? I don't think so. And I've never heard a car that would do that. Many people know me. I have problem these days with the limitation of stereo, and I demo especially the S-Class running differential rear field, which is so easy in that car when I can turn the differential rear field off, and then people only hear the stereo, and there's no real room information around you. You don't get the space as if you were sitting in the audience. That can really nag me if a system doesn't have that capability. Yes, that's a trick I do, and we are kind of doing the trick from stereo to recreate a larger space in a car, which is a dead space. That's another thing that people don't understand. We are in such a dead space in the car when it's shut that you can tell when you shut your eyes, and if you, like here, we can tell that we have the echo from the walls coming back. We can tell we are in a larger space. In a car, there's none of it. It's so early reflection that we are in a dead room. And then yes, competition is chasing stereo expectations and get a perfect stage between far left and far right. They are looking for perfect center image on every frequency. They're looking for balanced left center and right center, everything holographic. But it's still just a letterbox presentation, and there are limitations of the stage. You can never feel like you are part of that presentation. You are always away from it. You're not attached to it. You're not organic part of that listening. Yes, you can have a perfect stereo and you can have a system that performs 8, 9, but there's more. That's where I'm looking forward to the time when possibly somebody is going to be able to bring Atmos to the aftermarket car audio world, and we can design systems where we will also have amazing recordings from the studios, where the engineers will understand how to mix native information to different locations to recreate a church. When you sit in a car and then you start to listen to something that was amazingly recorded in Atmos, and you will feel like, wow, I'm transformed into another space, into another room. I can tell that now I'm in a small rehearsal room with the band, and I can hear the drum in front of me close, and I get that close-up recording dynamics, everything slapping in my face. Or you can tell when you have an orchestra in a church further away from you, and you can tell the size of the room. You have height information from the back. If somebody's coughing from the back, it's going to come from there. I think that's what I'm looking for, and it might be the first step to enter the area where we could give a 10 to a system, I guess. So that's my take on the Pssound scoring list, which is very easy. You don't have to have a huge score sheet when you go to competition. And this is, I think, pretty simple to understand what I'm expecting from a system and what I want to give to clients, to customers, to experience. Yeah, 7 is the absolute minimum. The simple daily systems that we build, where we have a door application, where you still have buzzes and rattles, when you can only do a custom pillar for mid-end tweet, you can easily do a 7. Everybody wants that. And if you can get rid of the buzzes, rattles, you can push it further. And then anything beyond that is going to require a lot of work. And that's when people have to understand that the return, the diminishing return, right, kicks in, and then you will need a lot of money for installation and a lot of money for better gear. So sometimes good enough is good enough. Now I'm using Nereus's quote, but that's okay, because it's true, right? All right, guys, feel free to share it, and hopefully it helped many of you to understand what we are expecting from a system, and we can bring you more shorter videos about these little hints. Check out description over there. You can go to our Patreon channel, where you can see dozens of weekly topics, fabrication videos, daily updates, all the challenges that we have with projects, and you get content worth of the last 5 years, I think. Now it's coming up to 5 years. So there's a lot of content there you can learn from, and you can build systems like this yourself. Then all you need at the end, just a bit of help from us to bring it alive, and then you can have amazing fun. So this is it for this one, guys. Hopefully you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.